If you're new to my channel, my name is Anna Jorgensen. Welcome to Just the Tip Tuesday. So I recently did a video on 9 tiny habits to get a girlfriend, and I had some great comments on that video, but one particularly stood out for me by a viewer, My POV. So thank you, My POV. Let's get into the 9 tiny habits when dating a girl that lead to huge results. Number 1, undivided attention. So my POV says specifically, don't answer any calls or text messages while with her. She will notice she's a priority. Absolutely. You want to be a priority to her, and she wants to be a priority to you. She wants to feel important and she wants to feel special. Unlike all the other guys who are still on their phone, swiping left or right or just checking messages, if you give her your undivided attention while you're with her, that doesn't look needy at all. It makes her look important to you. And that is important in any relationship. That doesn't make her more important than you. It just makes her important while you're with her. And of course, she should be able to reciprocate. So tiny habit example, let's say you're at a restaurant, you not only turn your phone to silent and no buzzing, you basically turn it off and stick it in your pocket. It's not on the table. If she's got hers on the table and it's buzzing every 5 seconds, you can kindly but firmly say, hey, I'd appreciate if you could put your phone away during our date. And then gauge her reaction. If you're kind and respectful, but also firm, then she should react with respect as well. If she doesn't, that's a red flag. And if you watched my other video, 9 tiny habits to get a girlfriend, you'll know that one of those habits is to filter. If there are red flags when you're first dating, those are not going to get better. They're going to get worse, especially if you don't address them. Number 2, eyes on the prize. So she's the prize. So POV says, don't let your eyes wander when you're talking with her. Now that doesn't mean you're going to steer focus completely, but it means that you're not going to oogle other women in the vicinity. And it's really difficult for you because of course you're built to notice attractive women. That's how men are built. If there's any women watching this, that's how men are built. So if they can give you this undivided attention and not checking out other girls, that's a major plus. Guys, if you can do this for a woman, that's a major plus. She will definitely notice because unconsciously, women actually do know this. We know that guys check out other girls, but if you can contain yourself and refrain from doing that when you're with us, it shows respect and it subconsciously tells a woman that you have control over yourself, and that shows a proof of loyalty. Tiny habit example, let's say you're in a restaurant with your girl and there is a smoking hot waitress, but she's actually not serving your table, thank goodness. But instead of even looking at her, especially if it's early on and you're not sure how your woman's going to react to this, I did do a video on how to test a woman in this situation, so you might want to check that out. But for general, you're not going to do it all the time. So that would be a one-time test situation. But generally, you're going to keep your eyes on the prize. You're not going to have your eye wandering around. She, as a woman, is definitely going to notice other attractive women in the vicinity because those are a competition to her. And if you can show her by looking at her and not looking at those other women while you're with her, then she's really going to notice that because other guys can't control themselves. Most other guys will be still checking out other women, even though they might try to do it on the sly. The girl they're with will absolutely notice. 3, listen, but really listen. My POV says, repeat back what she says to you and give thoughtful responses. So this one I agree with in principle, but I'm going to make a slight adjustment. So you definitely want to listen with the key point being curiosity. You want to listen with curiosity, not thinking about what you want to say next, not thinking about how she's going to respond to what you're thinking or what you're going to say next. Your whole intention with really listening is to learn about her, to be curious about her, to make her feel like you're actually interested in what she's saying, which means you actually have to be interested in what she's saying. And you should be if you're interested in her. But here's the one little edit I'm going to do to this one. Don't repeat back what she said verbatim because that's going to make you look like a parrot. Instead, paraphrase what she said. So if she tells you, for example, tiny habit example, she says to you that her favorite aunt just died recently and she's really sad about it. Here are some examples of not so great, okay, and great replies. Bad listening. yeah, most of my relatives are dead now. Or, nah, I don't even like my aunt. Bad. No, no es bueno. She's not going to feel heard or understood in feelings. Okay, slightly better example of good listening. Oh, your aunt passed. I'm so sorry to hear that. At least she's not in pain. Okay, that's okay. That's sort of repeating back. Your aunt passed. Da, da, da. A really good response would be leaning forward. That shows that you're interested. Leaning back means you're not interested. Leaning forward, you might say something like, that must be such an empty space in your life. What was it about her that made her your favorite aunt? Ah, now you're really listening. Because the point wasn't just that her aunt died, it was that it was her favorite aunt. So hopefully you kind of get the nuance there. Number 4, acceptable attire. My POV, wear clean clothes and shoes. Okay, so this one seems fairly obvious, but you'd be surprised how many men and women show up without putting any effort in. Now, once you get comfortable with each other, okay, great. You know, you can be a bit more casual with each other. But in the dating stage, when you're courting and you're still kind of trying to impress each other, you want to take extra care to be thoughtful in showing up with clean clothes and yes, clean shoes. Now, you don't need to show up in a 3-piece suit if that's not what the occasion calls for. If you're going to a sporting event, then you are going to be casual. Of course, you're going to be more casual. But the point is in showing up with thought put into your outfit. Most women, okay, I'm going to retract that. A lot of women spend a lot of time getting ready for a date, far longer than you do. Let me tell you, women spend hours doing hair, makeup, and getting a new outfit and the whole works. They get waxed and they get their nails done and all kinds of things if they like you. So if they're showing up with that kind of effort, then you need to show up with a little bit of effort too. And my rule of thumb is when you're going on a date, you want to dress about 10% better than you think you should. So it's always better to put in a little bit more effort, and she'll notice that because the other guys aren't doing that, and it just shows up well, but don't put in so much extra effort that you're going to feel uncomfortable in what you're wearing. And along these lines is number 5, groom thyself. My POV says, be well groomed, hair, nails, etc. don't smell. So of course, this one's again fairly obvious, I would think, but sometimes life happens and you might think you don't have enough time. So for example, tiny habit example, you set up a date with your gal and you're running late at the office and you don't have time to go home and have a shower. So you just want to either wear what you're wearing or change real quick and go to the date. A better thing to do would be to message her as soon as you know you're going to be running a bit late and just say to her, look, I'm going to be running a bit late, but you deserve to have a good smelling gentleman and I'd really like to have time to have a shower. Could we postpone by about 15 minutes? That way you're showing her, you're giving her proof that you care about presenting yourself well to her, for her. Now try not to leave it to the last minute because then she's either already going to be ready and waiting or she's going to be at the restaurant if you're meeting there. So in that case, you might say something like, I'm really sorry, work ran late. I'm going to show up and I might be wearing a little extra cologne because I didn't have time to go home and shower. Now, if you plan, if she's important, this is going to be a bit of a struggle for some guys who are not as good at time management. I want to work on that, but especially at the beginning when it's really important, you want to plan for some of these events. So bring an extra change of clothes to work, or if you can shower at work, then budget some extra time for that. Put your pit stink on, or pit stink stuff, deodorant, wear deodorant, cologne, not too much. Otherwise, she'll wonder what you're trying to hide. 6, smile. My point of view says smile. Okay, so this one, again, there's actually a statistic that shows that women prefer men who are brooding or kind of serious in dating site profiles, particularly if you don't have great teeth or you are under the average attraction level scale. So in real life, you actually do want to smile. You want to bring a genuine smile. You want to be happy to see her and you want that to show on your face. This will again make you stand out from the guys who thought they've learned that they should act like a bad boy by being serious and mysterious, but not being happy to see her when she arrives. So there's a time and a place for serious and mysterious, but when you first see her, when she first arrives, you want it to show up on your face that you are happy to see her. And that shows up in a smile. And don't worry, you will not look needy and desperate just because you're happy to see her. In fact, by being happy to see her and smiling, we have these mirror neurons. This will be contagious, help her smile, feel good about seeing you. And this, again, is not something that all guys do. 7, kind versus right. My point of view says be kind versus being right. This one I'm going to half agree with. I do think that you can be kind and state your opinions at the same time. Now, one thing no woman wants is a man who's a doormat or who is fibbing through his teeth just to agree with her or to please her. That's called a nice guy. And what happens to nice guys? Nice guys finish last. So you want to be kind, and sometimes you want to just let her be right, even if you disagree, if it doesn't matter. But if there's something that goes against your fundamental values, beliefs, or anything else, then you absolutely have to disagree. You have to speak up, because otherwise you may end up down the road with someone that you are not in compatibility with, and it's not going to end well. So yes, be kind and be right. Tiny habit example. So let's say you're at another restaurant and there's a beautiful server behind the bar with a sleeve of tattoos, and your girl says, I think tattoos are kind of trashy. And you actually disagree with that. So you say, I think it actually depends on the girl and the tattoo. From there, you can enter into a discussion about the pros and cons of women who have tattoos. It can be interesting. You can learn something about your potential partner or your partner that you're dating, and you've disagreed respectfully. Remember, it's okay to question whether a disagreement or something that you believe is different than your potential partner is a deal breaker. You need to find these things out before getting committed, which brings us to number 8, deal breakers. My point of view says bring up things important to you in discussion as soon as possible. And yes, I fully agree. I don't think we should tiptoe around the big topics until later. I think that that's a waste of time. If you're considering a long-term relationship with someone, you need to find out sooner than later what things you're going to actually be able to live with and which things you can't live with. Because in relationships, John Gottman, the godfather of relationship advice, says that approximately 69% of disagreements in relationships are never resolved. So you want to make sure that the issues that do come up are not the ones that are fundamental deal breakers. And this is something I can guarantee you almost none of the guys she's dated before have brought this up or even thought about it, which shows a lack of serious interest in long-term possibility. And if you haven't watched some of my other videos, my Wake Up to Love program does give you a process to figure out what your top 5 real, true deal breakers and deal makers are. Because a lot of times what you think they are, surprise, they're not. And that's why past relationships maybe haven't worked out. And it'll help you also pay attention to the pink flags, the ones that you think are real deal breakers, but maybe they're really not. And you could be discounting someone who's pretty amazing because you think something's a deal breaker when actually it's just an irritation, or maybe something that actually can be compromised on. Tiny habit example. You believe that couples who are in a relationship with each other should automatically trust each other and not want to check each other's phone or text messages or emails or anything like that because it's a breach of privacy. Maybe you've even had some bad experiences that were unwarranted. Meanwhile, the gal you're with believes that couples who are in relationship should have everything open book policy. She has access to all your emails, your social media accounts, passwords to, anything where basically she can see if you're being naughty with another girl. That's the primary, right? Okay. And maybe she's that way because she's had a bad experience where she's been with someone who did cheat on her. So is this a fundamental a deal breaker for you, you have to decide. I can't decide that for you. Maybe it's like, okay, well, I've never cheated in the past, so what is my concern about this? Is it really privacy? Can I give up my privacy to make her feel safe because she hasn't been safe in past relationships, and she probably isn't about trusting me, but maybe it's about trusting herself. Okay, can I do that or can I not? You have to decide. But better to decide sooner than later, because it is going to come up. Same thing with kids. One wants kids, the other doesn't want kids. Don't hope that things are going to change. Love does not change these fundamentals. And number 9, which I actually got from another commenter, and I can't remember right now, so I'll look for it and I'll put it on screen here. But number 9 is make her bed. Okay, so this one I love for a different reason. You're not going to make her bed because you're going to be a subservient, submissive child to her. But I guarantee, if it's the first night you've been there and you're waking up in the morning with her, she likes you. And I guarantee, probably no man before you has ever made her bed for her. So if you do that, you are absolutely going to stand out in her eyes as a keeper, because it shows thoughtfulness and a willingness to do something kind for her. Now, of course, you're going to discover along the way, filter, 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 remember my other video, if she's reciprocal in her thoughtfulness. If she's not, then maybe she's not a good person to consider long term. But if you do nice things for her and she does nice things for you, well, that's what healthy relationships are about. So let's say you've made her bed, tiny habit example, and she's surprised and she's like, what are you doing? And you say, well, I'm treating you like the queen that you are. Hint, hint. It's okay to go overboard with flattery once you've already done the dirty, because especially if you're there the next day, she likes you. You're there the next day, especially if you're in her space. And there are other ways to show thoughtfulness, like maybe she invites you over for dinner and you bring her favorite wine because you've paid attention. Thoughtfulness is all about paying attention to the small details and having that show up in your actions so she knows you've paid attention to the small details. And again, yes, she should be doing the same thing. Other examples could be putting your dirty dishes in the sink or putting your dirty dishes in the dishwasher because you know she's a clean freak and that bothers her. Or even just remembering her cat's name because she loves her cat. You love her cat. You know what I mean? And again, if she's a keeper, then she'll reciprocate that thoughtfulness as well. And if you want to know what are the 25 signs that she's a keeper, then definitely watch my She's a Keeper video.